What's up, Sagebrush? Happy Monday. Welcome to our weekly message discussion where we are here to help you take the concepts from the weekend message and live them out in a practical way throughout your week. My name is Eric, and I am joined, as always, by my good friend, Pastor Andrew. Andrew, we are in the fourth week. We are in the fourth week of our new series, Greater Than. Can you say hi to everybody and let them know kind of where we're at in this series so far?
Sure. Hey, everybody. Great to see you on this Monday afternoon. Glad that you're having lunch with us and everything. We are in our Greater Than series, and we, like Eric said, are in week number 4. And we talked about how God is greater than all the decisions that you face and how God is able to give us wisdom in the times where we look for help from Him. And so it was a great message. We saw God just do great things in the service, and lots of people are making the decision to come back to church.
That's right. And not only that decision, making the decision to give their lives to Jesus and making that decision to go public with their faith, getting baptized. You want to tell us a little bit about how exciting baptism weekend was this weekend?
Baptism was so great. We had 51 people who got baptized here at the Riverside campus. Yep. So all my friends from Riverside, a way to go. But on all of our campuses, we saw a bunch of people get baptized. And so that's what I love about Sagebrush is we're constantly seeing people make adult decisions to follow Jesus Christ.
Yep, exactly. And I think if you're interested in having that conversation, or if you know somebody that is, if you want to get baptized, if you have questions about your faith, you can enter them into the comments here, or you can call or text us anytime, 505-922-9200. We have pastoral care team members that would love to connect with you, especially if one of your next steps is to get into a small group, which is exactly what we're doing here, is we go through the small group curriculum questions just to give you a little bit of a taste of what a small group is like, because we are so passionate about small groups. Andrew, you want to tell us why?
Small groups are the way that we really help people in our church. And man, Sagebrush is a large-sized church, and a lot of people can get lost in the mass of humanity that comes out every single weekend here. Even with COVID safe practices and everything, you can get lost really fast. But in a small group, that's a place where you're known. That's the place where we can pray for you. That's the place where we can really help you to understand the Bible a little bit better. So you need to get into a small group.
Yep, exactly. So you could do that. Let us know in the comments. A couple people already asking already. We'll get you connected, or go to sagebrush.church/groups to get connected there. If you have questions about baptism, like we said here, sagebrush.church/baptism. You can always call or text us 505-922-9200 so we can get you connected. Well, we typically start out with an icebreaker question just to get the comments going. So if you're watching us here live on Facebook, or if you're watching us later on demand on Facebook, let us know your answers in the comments. You could press pause. You could talk about it if you're with your group right now, but participate along as we go. The icebreaker question today is, are you a fast decision maker or a slow decision maker, and why? What do you think?
For me, it just depends on what the situation is. If it's like what to eat for lunch right now, that's a very easy decision to make because I'm hungry right now. Okay. When it's how to spend money, and usually when it's a significant amount of money, I always have a very hard time making decisions. My wife hates car shopping with me. Hates it. Because I can't make a decision about which car I want or how much to spend. I always feel like I'm getting taken by a dealer or somebody else. And so, man, I really hate making big decisions like that about purchases. What about for you, Eric?
I really am into Gallup Strengths Finder, which is a way to like break down, different areas that you're strong in and things like that. And so I am what they would call an activator. I also have individualization. So activator means that I'm ready to take action on things. So a lot of times I can take quick action and quick decisions, or at least take a decision and run with it and go. So it's easy like that. But the other thing is I have a strength of individualization, which means that it can be very tough for me to make decisions because I want to make sure it's just perfect for that right person. So finding the right gift for someone else, or finding out where we're going to go to eat if we're in a group, trying to figure out what is the perfect decision to make that would make everyone else happy can be tough. So it's a little bit of push and pull. Sometimes I'm really quick to make a decision and I can run with it. Other times it's like I will just sit there and my wife will go, why is this taking so long to make this decision? In the comments here, Maria says she's slow, can't usually make up her mind on times, which, I get that too. Val says depends on the issue, but I always think long before I make a choice. Let's see, we got a couple people here. Pat's a fast decision maker most of the time. Pat. Okay, but there have been other times when it was not the best thing to do. And we're going to be talking about decisions here today. Second question, what are some of the biggest decisions people today are making?
Well, there's the external decisions, right? Okay. Like, what job will I do? Who will I marry? What to do with my finances and all the external stuff. But there's also the internal decisions that we make about, man, what's the purpose of my life? And what on earth am I really here for? Or, man, how do I live a life that matters? Or how do I be a leader that somebody else wants to follow? All those things are internal things that we wrestle with. But man, every day we are confronted with big decisions. I love how Todd pointed that out this weekend, that every single day you make about 70 significant decisions. And when you total that up in your lifespan, that's like 1.7 million decisions that you will make in your lifetime, which is definitely a lot. And what you do, every single decision has consequences as well as repercussions from. So you've got to make decisions wisely.
Right. Yeah, so people are making a lot of big decisions. And, one of the things that comes up for me too, in having two small kids, 8 years old and 9 years old, is trying to talk to them about what sort of decisions that they're making and what frame of mind that they're in too.
Okay.
So, with my youngest son, he's not at all like me. He gets a little bit upset by things and then will want to make a rash decision in that upset situation. So I'm trying to help him understand, like, hey, you're making this decision based on an emotional reaction.
Correct.
I was just sharing with one of our coworkers here, one of the axioms that we used to talk about all the time is that your emotions are real and they're valid, but they're not reliable for decision making. And so I think there's not only this external decision making like you're talking about, but that emotion driven decision making that some people make, which I know when I'm making a decision out of emotion, I don't want to put a percentage to it, but a vast majority of the time, it's probably not going to go so well.
Yeah, especially when I'm hungry.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when
bad decision-making process when you're hungry.
So we're going to get into the Bible here. So we're opening up to Proverbs chapter 3, verses 1 through 8. And think about this. What wisdom can we gain from trusting and following God's lead as we read? Okay, Proverbs 3, 1 through 8. My child, never forget the things I have taught you. Store my commands in your heart. If you do this, you will live many years, and your life will be satisfying. Never let loyalty and kindness leave you. Tie them around your neck as a reminder. Write them deep within your heart. Then you will find favor with both God and people, and you will earn a good reputation. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not depend on your own understanding. Seek His will in all you do, and He will show you which path to take. Don't be impressed with your own wisdom. Instead, fear the Lord and turn away from evil. Then you will have healing for your body and strength for your bones. Andrew, how do we respond to God's guidance as we make decisions? And what are some of the wisdom things through this passage?
Yeah, I think that there's so much in this, Eric, that we can pull from. If you have this life of wisdom and you look to God to help you, He's going to preserve your life. When you follow these commandments, they weren't meant to make your life worse. They were meant to extend your life and to make your life better, to satisfy you. And so that's what trusting in God really looks like. And then when you live that sort of way, you have a good reputation. And I like that it says it right there, that you'll earn a good reputation both between men and with God. And so that's so important that, man, people will look at you like, man, that's a guy who really loves God and there's something different about him. And man, that's a person that I'd like to be around. I like too that God makes our path straight. And this is a verse in Scripture that I've memorized and everybody should memorize, the idea of trusting in the Lord with all your heart and leaning not on your own understanding, in all your ways acknowledging Him, and He'll make your path straight. When you have to make a big decision and you're not trusting in God and you're trying to do it on your own strength, you're going to feel helpless. But when you have God to depend upon, when you can trust in Him, He's the one that you can look to for strength and support, and He does that. He makes your path straight. He helps you out. He brings life and strength to your bones.
Yeah.
I love those words.
Yeah, I love them too, and I like that this pretty much lays it out pretty well on some of those things too. And I think that depending on God's guidance means that you need to keep His guidance close to you.
Yeah.
So never forget the things I have taught you. Store my commands in your heart. Tie these things around your neck as a reminder, right?
So
those
good.
are three different mental images of you. Don't forget. So you got to keep reminding them. Store them in your heart. Tie them around your neck. I mean, they're just images that we're given on God's commands, on the things that are good, like loyalty, kindness, all of these types of things. And so you have to know that first in order to then seek His will in all you do. Because I mean, when you said like, okay, how are you going to get wisdom from God? Well, how do I know if the wisdom is coming from God or from me? It's like I need to keep all of those things close to me at all times.
Yeah, and the importance there is really looking to God first. You know, when you have a decision to make, a lot of times we hem and we haw and we go to different sources or we go to different friends. But what about God? What place does God have in your decision-making process? And I love that Todd brought out those two different qualities, that there's two teachers that you learn from in life. You learn from wisdom or you learn from consequences, which is no fun, right? And so when we look to God first, he really gives us this wisdom from above. I love that James says that.
And I like the wisdom aspect too, because you know you can say, "Hey, I can learn from other people's mistakes as well." So you not only do learn wisdom, but you also learn the consequences that you see from other people.
Oh yeah,
and you get to see it in the Bible as you look through a lot of these stories too. So now we're going to move over to John. It's in the New Testament, John chapter 13, verses 33 through 35. It says, "Dear children, I will be with you only a little longer, and as I told the Jewish leaders, you will search for me, but you can't come where I'm going. So now I'm giving you a new commandment. Love each other. Just as I have loved you, you should love each other. Your love for one another will prove to the world that you are my disciples." Question now, how do these verses provide clarity as we make decisions every day?
Yeah, each of us should have our mission that we live by, and I love that Todd talked about his own personal mission, that it's to know Christ and to make Christ known. And really where that's informed is this passage of Scripture. As Jesus, the night before he died on the cross, he spent one final meal alone with the disciples, and then after they ate, he began to teach them, and he gives them this new commandment. The new commandment isn't to love one another. The new commandment is to love others as Jesus loved us.
Right.
And that's the big one. That's the big aha in this moment, if you will, is, man, I should love others in the same way that Jesus loved me.
Yep.
And when we think through that, man, that's the way that what we should really be about is, how do I love God with this decision and how do I love other people? And is this the most loving thing that I can do for God by making this decision? And is this the best way that I could love other people? And when we change our framework, instead of doing whatever makes us happy or whatever gratifies ourselves, but instead what do we think would bring a smile to God's face?
Right.
You know, what helps another person? That's just a better orientation that we can have for our whole life.
Yeah, and you can't understate the importance of these words, right?
Yeah.
Because usually, like you've heard it said before, like you can never make another first impression, and like the most important things you see from people.
That's the soap commercial, right?
Right. Yeah. It's like
That's the soap, Eric.
You have a first impression and you have a last impression. Those are usually two of the most important things that you're going to say to somebody. And sometimes we overhype that first impression, but it's that last thing that you're going to say to someone. And I mean, I think I've talked about it here in our message discussion before, but you know, anytime if you're leaving family for a while, or if you visit and you go, like that last thing you're saying, or if you had anybody on their deathbed, like that last thing people say to you is usually some of the most important things. And so he's saying this, and he says, "I'm leaving. You can't go where I'm going."
Yep.
And then that word so now I'm giving you a new commandment, because I'm not going to be with you anymore, because I'm not going to be here to teach you and to remind you all the time. This is a new commandment. If you don't get anything else, if you don't go through the 10 and all the other things, this is what I want you to know. And so I thought that was so important, especially when the question says, how do these verses provide clarity as we make decisions? And so that should say, hey, is the decision I'm making today, is this a loving decision towards someone else in the way that like Jesus would love me? So and I think that's where those bracelets came from. You know, what would Jesus do, right?
Yes.
That's kind of how it is. So
well, and Jesus really flips the script here, doesn't he? Like, I mean, because he's taking that orientation off of what makes me happy or what's in it for me. And here he's saying, no, it's not about that. It's about loving God. It's about loving other people. And when you change this, that's when you find satisfaction. That's when you find wholeness. That's when you find, man, the purpose in your life. And today we live in a society that's consumed with just do whatever makes you happy.
Yep.
No matter who you like, no matter who you love, whatever makes you happy, that's how you've got to be.
And I think it also, it speaks to it here on that love for one another will prove to the world that you're my disciples. And I like that, I love just taking that out and saying what it's not, and so your love for one another will prove to the world that you're my disciples in decision making. Those decisions that I make personally if it's showing that I'm loving other people, that's proof that I'm a disciple of Christ. It's not, if I do something out of selfish ambition, if it's not out of conceit, if it's not for me to get ahead in life, it's not because I'm lazy and I just want this instant gratification to feel better, like you said. It's not that I'm like, going to make a decision. The other thing is like, Jesus didn't say, so make sure everybody follows the rules. I'm leaving right now, so it's your job. Make sure everybody follows the rules, so nobody's messing around, right? That everybody just you keep it square. It says, no, love one another. And so I think that's what I would love to see our church, our city, just our entire, the name of Christ be known by how much we love one another, not by some of the other things that I think the non-believing world would say. If they said, hey, what do you think about Christians? Oh, they're so loving. I don't think that that's the number one thing that usually comes out.
No doubt.
So question here to turn it personal. How has God given you wisdom in the past when you needed it? When was a time you refused to follow God's lead, and how did that turn out?
Yeah, I think for me, Eric, it's always that he gives me the words to speak at just the right moment. And I feel like there's times where I've sat and I've been overwhelmed in a conversation because, as a pastor, you never know exactly what you're walking into when you counsel somebody or somebody else. And so I always look to God for help. And it's amazing how God will recall these passages of scripture that I've read or these words that come from the Bible that you're able to share with that person in that right moment at the right time. And man, I have seen God show up in just so many different ways as I've looked to him for wisdom. And he's allowed that wisdom to come through me, and not of myself or anything of my great learning or the fact that I have a degree or anything else, but man, all of that has come because of the Holy Spirit at the right time, applying his wisdom to that situation.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, in making decisions, for sure, there have just been times in my life. I remember one time I was like in my first full-time job, I was applying for something else and I was going to get maybe a promotion here, but the job that I was in a city that was 45 miles away. And so I had a big, long commute every day. And I remember thinking like, my wife and I, we had prayed to God and we said, make this decision are we supposed to pack up and move and create this life and keep moving up in this area, or apply for this job and go? And, and we just got this thing like, hey, are you going to trust me or not? And so we literally started packing the house up and we said, okay, we're going to pack this thing up. And then the next day I got the call from the other job that said, we want you. And it was like, it was an exercise in faithfulness that I knew, I just had to be faithful to what God wanted, even if it's not the answer that I was expecting right away, because I think God says yes, God says no, and I think God also says not yet, yes, but not yet. And it's all in this faithful wisdom and decision making, because even if I can't see what's on the other side of this decision, there's times that you need to trust God, because obviously he can see what's beyond the limited perspective that we have.
So good, Eric.
Okay, let's see here. All right. Another question. In what area of your life do you need wisdom today? What decisions are you facing right now that you need wisdom in? And I know there's some conversations going on in the chat right now with people that need wisdom. Just keep typing them in there, because we do have our pastoral team that would love to connect with you. Also, if there's something that's like deeper than what you want to talk about on the internet in Facebook land, you can always call or text us 505-922-9200, just to say that beforehand. But Andrew, in what area of life do we need wisdom today, and what decisions are we facing that we need wisdom in?
Yeah, I always need more wisdom, and I'll take more wisdom in raising my kids and helping them to grow closer to God in their daily lives. And so this has been a challenge for me as I've tried to navigate this. And I grew up in a home where my mom was a follower of Christ, but my dad was a later follower of Christ, Eric. And so we didn't really have a dad who was the spiritual leader in the home. And so, man, I want to be that wise spiritual leader, not just for my church, because I do a good job of this as a pastor, but I want to be a good spiritual leader at home as well. And so I think that's where I'm looking for. And I've surrounded myself with some great men. Man, I look at Todd as well as Bob and Chris and a few of the other guys who work here, and they've been great mentors for me on how to raise my kids and how to put that time and effort into them. And that's been so good just to learn. The other way is just as a guy who manages a bunch of different people around here at church, I just want to help other people to achieve their goals. And so I've been put in a situation where God's allowed me to lead here to a certain capacity. And man, I just really want to help those other people who are on my team to do better and better. And so, man, I have read books for that. I have sat down with older, more wiser men, and that has all been so good for me. What about for you?
Yeah, I think for me it's prioritization. How am I going to prioritize my time? I only have a limited amount of time, not only in every day, in every week, but here on earth in general. And so asking God for wisdom every day on how am I best going to spend my time. I mean, just like you said, you've got people that report to you, right? From a boss standpoint, you're leading in a church. So you've got people you're pastoring, you've got your wife, your spouse, you've got your kids, and you've got everybody else involved in that. And so it's like there's only so much Andrew, just like there's only so much Eric, just like there's only so much of you to be able to spread that out. So for me, it's like really asking God, where is the wisest use of my time, my energy, and my resources, and how can I make the biggest, most important impact with what I have? And that's why I love Todd's message week in and week out about how we have this one life and how are we best going to spend that. And this entire series has been great to think through some of those different areas where God has a greater plan for you to spend your time, to spend your mental energy from worrying, to spend that energy from, instead of fearing, to spend that energy on thinking about, your wisdom and decision making too.
Yeah, and when we take our focus right off of all those worries and fears and everything else, then we can put our focus in the right spot, which is trusting Him on the decisions that we make.
Right.
And so every single one of these messages kind of dovetail together to get us to the place where we're not putting ourselves first. We're understanding that there's a God that's greater than whatever we're facing. And you may feel just overwhelmed by those decisions that you've got to make. And so we want to make ourselves available. We'd love to pray for you as a church if you've got something going on. But again, the best place that we can really help you is in a group.
Yes.
And that's what we want to encourage groups to do even today. If you're in a group, spend some time praying for one another. Ask God for wisdom over whatever decisions people are facing, because we know people are struggling with some big decisions right now.
Yeah, and I think, we do have people that are doing work in the comments, and I love it. This is great that you're going back and forth, getting connected. The one question I would ask is, have you told the members of your group about this? And if the answer is no, then why not maybe discuss that on that group situation? If the answer is no, because I'm not in a group, I think the answer is to get in a group, right? So we have online groups, and people were asking about groups located, I don't know, there were a couple other people that were asking about maybe groups that aren't located right around our church locations, which is true. We do have online groups available. We have host groups available that meet as well. So get involved in a group. If there's something that's just a little bit bigger that you need some care and recovery from, then we also have our living free groups as well that you can check out too. So anything else you want to talk to the people about before we go about our day?
Hey, don't forget, it's Mother's Day this weekend, and Mother's Day is a big deal around Sagebrush, so make sure to invite your mom to come to Mother's Day. Moms, we need your help. Please guilt all your children into coming to church. We have a free coffee mug that we're giving out, and then there's a t-shirt for those people who get there super early to the service. So if you want to get one of the t-shirts, come early, get your coffee mug. For those who are still not comfortable coming in person, we are going to make our mugs available to you if you want to drive through at the Riverside campus. Eric will probably give more information.
Well, in fact, they're at all of our campuses after the services from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock p.m. Mountain Time. You can go to any of our campus locations, and as long as we have mugs available, we'll be giving them out. And just a caveat for some of you, I know Mother's Day could be a very hard time because you're mourning the loss of a mother. Maybe you didn't have the greatest relationship with a mother figure growing up, or maybe it reminds you of a hope for motherhood that just didn't happen. And so for Mother's Day, we don't celebrate just biological mothers. We celebrate all people who play that role of mother in someone else's life, because I know that I wouldn't be the person I am, not only without my mom, but also my aunt and other mother figures who have been in my life as well. So just know, if this is a season of pain for you, again, we have people that would love to come alongside you and help you through this time as well. But also, bring as many people as you can to the service, because it's going to be a great opportunity to honor the people that play the role of mom in our lives. And so on behalf of Andrew, I'm Eric. We will see you guys next weekend.